if you get inside that chamber and start sucking gas, you might not be able to control yourself.
These soldiers are learning to defend themselves against a weapon which they hope will never be used. They're undergoing training on how to survive a chemical warfare attack. But recent events have raised expectations that the world is on the verge of eliminating not only the production, but also the use of chemical weapons. In World War I, poison gas killed 100,000 people. 1 million more were maimed or injured by deadly chemical agents. This horrific experience prompted the League of Nations to adopt the Geneva Protocol of 1925. The protocol prohibits the use in war of poisonous gases, but it does not ban their production or stockpiling. For the last 15 years, the UN has put the elimination of chemical weapons at the top of its non-nuclear disarmament agenda. However, the Geneva-based UN Conference on Disarmament has encountered difficulties with verification provisions. The United Nations Chief for Disarmament Affairs, Yasushi Akashi, explains the verification problem.
But you cannot possibly inspect all the time all these plants. And the difference between pesticides and poison gas is a very, very thin line. But in order to have full confidence that this convention works and nobody is cheating, you have to have good verification provisions.
Today, the need for a total ban is becoming more critical. More than 20 countries are now manufacturing and storing chemical weapons. The actual use of chemical weapons in the Iran-Iraq conflict has aroused very great concern. On several occasions, UN expert teams have confirmed its use during the Gulf War. Sometimes the victims were unarmed civilians. The UN Secretary-General was one of the keynote speakers when 149 countries met in Paris earlier this year. They unanimously condemned the use of chemical weapons.
The Paris conference, with 149 countries participating, and in most cases at the level of foreign ministers, has immensely contributed to great political awareness of the urgent need for chemical weapons convention.
The Paris conference called on the UN Conference on Disarmament, as it resumes its session in Geneva, to conclude a global convention. This would totally ban the production, storage and use of chemical weapons. With growing superpower support, the prospect for the total elimination of chemical weapons is no longer out of the question. This has been a report from the United Nations.